Hey everyone, welcome to my new video. Today I will show you how to make the Stranger Things inspired animation in Blender from start to finish, and I will show you the most noteworthy and interesting parts like the sketch and ideation, modeling and texturing, setting up the scene, and finally lighting. And I really hope you will enjoy this one, and if you do, please don't forget to leave that like, and if you're new around here and want to learn everything Blender, hit that subscribe. And as always, before any scene starts, I like to, gather the ideas, the references, and generally gather my thoughts and put everything into a sketch. And for this one, when it comes to references, the sources were quite limited. You can find some images online, from the shooting, as you can see here, how they're building the set and everything. But luckily, I didn't need too much references for this one. I mostly needed to focus on how the building looks, and most notably if I had the car from multiple angles, because that was the focal point for the scene. That's the hero asset. And even if it's pretty much clear what I'm gonna build, I still like to do a sketch because I like to explore the shape of the building and the surroundings and generally create at least some kind of shot, even though this was supposed to be animation, so I knew I would need to work with multiple camera angles. But in this case, it really helped me to kind of decide on the proportions of the scene. And most notably, here's the antenna. For example, I had to make this much smaller and more stylized because the original had this quite large construction, and it would be really difficult to get this into animation shot and create angles where the whole thing is visible. And I wanted to include parts from the show like the platform and the green bulbs on the top of the tower, so naturally I just had to make this smaller. So that's why I always create the sketch, because I have that space to explore these ideas and to think about these things before even I come across them while modeling. So that was the quick ideation. So the first thing I like to do in cases like this, I just jump into the car modeling, because the hero asset, the car, the vehicle, needs to be built anyway. So I might as well just start with that and, relax a little bit. I often, play some show on the side or something, load up the blueprint and just start modeling the vehicle. I really enjoy the process, and here basically I follow my standard car modeling method that I do for all of my car renders, car illustrations and animations, and basically the same I used with my latest car adventure course. So if you're interested, if you want to learn how to model car from blueprint like this from start to finish, there's a 5-hour section in the course that will teach you how to do exactly what I'm doing here in the scene, even though with a different type of vehicle, different blueprint, but the methods and the tools are the same. So if you're interested, please check out the course as well. The link will be in the description. And with the car model ready, I proceed to create a rig so the car can be easily animated on the terrain. And I use this Rig a Car add-on, really simple and easy to use add-on that I discovered a few years ago. Unfortunately, the maker of the add-on doesn't maintain it anymore, but it's free up there on the GitHub, so I forked it. I forked the source code and I started to maintain it for myself, and I'm using it in the course as well. And just recently with the release of Blender 5, I found out that it completely broke the add-on, so I dug in and created the new source code version that works with Blender 5. So everything you see here, these little gizmos that you can use to control the car suspension or the car steering, or drifting and other functions. And finally also you can animate the car on a path. And since I already reworked this Rig a Car add-on to work with Blender 5, I might as well just give it away. So you will find the link in the description as well. You will go to the Polygon Runway website and you can just sign up for the account there and download this for free and use it in your project. So that's what I used here, and basically I just created this large plane and blocked out the buildings here. And at first I just used the primitives to block out the scene and focused on the proportions and how the animation will work, and of course camera animation. So if I rewind this here and if I go to the camera view, you can see I placed the camera rig behind the car and I'm just following the movement up the path towards the building. I really wanted this wide shot where the car is in the front and the building is visible in the background, and it's clear what this is about and that it's from the show. So it starts from this angle where you have all the car livery visible from one side, then in this shot from the other side, and only then I switch to this top-down view where the camera slowly dollies across the scene, and you can see car approaching the building, and then we have one more shot in the front of the building where we just follow the camera as it comes to a stop, and then I do some suspension animation there. And basically that was the most important part for me, to get this done from the beginning, to have the camera animated, to have the car animated, and to have the scene blocked out so I can see what I'm aiming for and how the overall composition and dynamics of the animation will work. And from this point, it's basically about refining and refining. And first of all, I needed some textures, and especially a bespoke texture for the car. And I was thinking about like putting that together in something like UCU Paint or Ricoh Paint, but then it was quite a lot of decals to put in. So I used a different approach where I unwrapped the car and exported the UV layout into third-party software. And lately I'm using the Affinity Studio, which you might have heard is now free. You don't need to purchase it anymore, and it doesn't come with any strings attached basically, and it's like these three softwares put into one, because you might argue that Photoshop or Illustrator can offer you more advanced functions, which is 100% true, but for simple tasks like this is actually better for me, because Affinity allows me to combine vector and bitmap workflows directly within one software, within one view. I can mix vector and pixel layers, and it just makes my life so much easier when I'm creating textures like this, where I need to put, different liveries on the car or different, topography there. So absolutely, Affinity is now my number one choice when it comes to texturing cars, at least when it comes to this method. And basically I just placed the texture on the car and left it like that for a second, started texturing the rest of the scene. So basically I just used the Polyhaven assets from the Polyhaven add-on, which you can buy really cheap. And of course the assets that are available in the add-on are free and available on their website, so you don't actually need to use the add-on, but it's really convenient, and for like $10 you can have all of their assets available in your asset browser and just drag and drop them in the scene. And I just basically unwrapped the buildings and mapped them to the textures as best as I could. And here I just used some rusty metal for the tower. I didn't really linger on this too much because I knew with the animation and with the shots it will be really in the background. Most of the time it will be blurred out or it will be motion blurred, so I didn't spend too much time. But of course I wanted the parts, the little details here, so from afar this really can look at least somewhat realistic, even though with these a little bit stylized proportions, because as I said before, I really wanted this to fit into the shot, even with the platform and everything. So that's how I approached the texturing, and then basically just created this large terrain texture and basically just painted the terrain mask here so I can, crossfade two different materials. One of them was grassy material, one of them was this like dirt material. So I just painted this mask over the terrain, and then we have the resulting material right here. And here's the preview in cycles. You can see with some little displacement and with the normal maps, this looks quite nice here. And finally, I wanted to populate the scene a little bit. So again, I used some of the assets from the Polyhaven library, and this is to add some flavor to the scene. So you can see there's some like covered car, some barrels, some boxes, and just some junk that could be placed around the old building like this. Even though this wasn't necessarily in the show, it helps to add a little bit more detail. And then finally, of course, some rocks and rock formations, and then I completed it with some nature. And this time I didn't create the nature manually like I do in my car adventure course, where you create everything from scratch using the 3 assets. This time I used the Geoscatter add-on, which has this really convenient engine called Biomes, and third-party developers can create biome presets for them. So as I already own the Botanic add-on with all of the grass and all of the trees, you can just go into the Geoscatter, open Biomes, and basically just with one click you can create entire biome, including the grass, the shrubs, the flowers, the trees, and it will just populate the scene for you. And then later you can go into the Geoscatter add-on and refine this, and this is a really quick and convenient way how to create whole natural scenes. And when you enable it, it looks like this, basically populating your scene with all of the natural assets you might want. And then of course I go in and weight paint over these assets. So naturally I wanted to remove the grass and the shrubs from the road or far behind where these are not visible and would only cause some performance issues. So that's with the nature. And finally I could just go in and refine the textures on other objects like the car, because I only had this one image with the decals and whatnot. And this is really nice thing with UCU Paint. As you can see, I have the original image plugged in right here, and when you click on the UCU to create the UCU setup, it doesn't discard your old material. It just creates this node that represents whatever you want to put here in the UCU Paint. And then you can still go in and plug different things together. Of course, it would be amazing if you could like create custom inputs here on the UCU Paint node and then plug them in as masks directly in the add-on. Hopefully one day developer might come with something like that. But right now you can still kind of intertwine different node setups with the UCU Paint. So for example, here you can see I have this color map plugged in, and then I'm working with it right here and applying different masks to create the dirt on the bottom of the car and on the wheels and whatnot. And then finally I have this grunge that comes from Fluent Materializer add-on. That's a procedural roughness map, and then I just directly plug it here into the principled setup for the car's layer of code. So this again enables me to use multiple setups and multiple tools in one material. And again, I really love the UCU Paint, or you could paint workflow, however you want to call this, and I will be probably using it a lot more going forward. And finally, when it comes to lighting here, I didn't go for HDRI and then manual placement of some of the lights. I basically used the sky texture directly available here in Blender, and here you can see how this works. You can adjust the sun rotation, and you can also modify the sun size and elevation. So you can really bring this down for a night scene. You will even see how the sun goes beyond the horizon, and it basically creates these nice colors for you. And you can modify the air quality here, so you can tweak these attributes, you know, to give this a little bit more color if you want, or a little bit more ambience, whatever you like to do with your atmosphere. And the great thing is here that you can just duplicate these and tweak the settings. So I can just plug this into the other node, and then I have this evening setup. If I want to create a render like this, I can just save this in my material. I don't need to go and create different setup. I can just have a bunch of these lying around ready to plug in. So that's about the lighting. And you might have seen some clouds here. Let me plug this back again. These are not part of the sky texture. These are created procedurally using the noise setup that you can see right here. Let me expand this a little bit. So basically you can just use some gradient texture to mask out the sky, and then basically use different noise setups and multiply them together to create clouds like this, and then multiply it basically with your sky texture and have it as an output here. Now this looks a little bit ugly because the clouds were adjusted for the day scene. So if I plug this in, this might look a little bit better, even a little bit overexposed. But yeah, these are basically simple clouds that you can have in your sky texture. In a closer inspection, they cannot pass for like realistic clouds, but for few animation shots where this is really in the background and blurred out, it doesn't really matter, and it can work just fine instead of HDRI. So that's for the lighting, and then basically I just dug in and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked until I had something I really liked. And as you can see, I went through the darker night scenes all the way to this like daylight setup. And finally, for the first time, I tried rendering out HDR because I got a new monitor. I got the HDR OLED display. So finally I could try out and see how the HDR actually looked in Blender. And now in Blender 5, it's easier than ever. You can just go into your render settings, and down here in the color management, you can switch your display to Rec 2100 HDR, and the HLG allows me, if I have my monitor in HDR mode, allows me to see 1000 nits of brightness. and then you can just use HDR view transform as well. So if I switch this here, you can see you have HDR 1000 nits as the color space. And when you have these settings like this in the output settings, you can just switch to something like H265, format, enable 10-bit, and now if you render this out, it will support HDR, and Instagram supports the HDR videos. I didn't try to export this for YouTube because on desktops not a lot of people are able to view the HDR content, but on phones, on OLED displays, a large portion of people already have HDR capability. So that's why I decided to render this as an HDR for Instagram, and I really love the result. So that's it for the latest Stranger Things inspired animation and about the tools and methods I used to bring this to life. And I really hope you enjoyed this one, and if you do, please leave that like, and if you want to see more like this, hit that subscribe, and also let me know in the comments how you like the show and if there are any more popular scenes aside from Stranger Things that you would like to see from me in 2026, because I'm already making a list of what I want to make next year. So if you have any suggestions, I want to hear them. And of course, I will be posting a full time-lapse video of this build next week as always. So thank you all for watching, and I wish you a happy holiday time.